You on?
We're on.
I'm ready to go. Okay, thanks for coming, everybody. We'll start with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll start with item number 1, approving the agenda. We've got a couple of, or one ad that I know of. We're going to add E3, which is a resolution approving a conditional use permit for a planned unit development for Ron Carlson. So that'll be number 3 on committee report. And then we're going to, on the consent agenda, item D, evaluations, on the first line there for the police chief, it says grade 16 step, and then blank to step 6 would be step 5. So just insert 5 to 6 of that one. And that's all I have right here. Teresa, anything else?
No.
Yeah? Nope. What? Mike? Doug?
Just if you were gonna mention.
Yeah, I'll add that to my mayor's report.
Okay, okay,
Yep.
thanks.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Make that motion.
Thanks, Dan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Wood. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously, Linda. On to the consent agenda. We just approved the one change on D to read step 5 to step 6. Any other questions for the administrator on the consent agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve as changed.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Lonnie. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Dan. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. No visitors, public forum. I don't have any cards for anybody speaking, so on to E, committee report, the facade program, number 1. There is a copy of that in the packet that you should have had. EDA put this together. Stephanie, I think, did a really good job. We made a few tweaks at the meeting last week, which are reflected in there. What it is we're trying to, as we try to retain and attract new business, this is one of the ways we do it. So as part of our budget, and this is all, assuming the budget gets approved in December, there was a $20,000 transfer from some of our designated funds to the EDA for this program specifically. And what it is it's for any business, and this is just an overview, any business, for everybody here, any business in the city of Casson with a storefront or front of their building. They can apply for a grant, a 50-50 grant, up to $2,000. So it'll be a $4,000 project to get $2,000 from the city. There's a few things you have to do, but things that it's for would be painting of a building exterior, rehab or replacement of windows, visible to the public, rehab, replacement of doors, siding, installation of brick on the facade, brick tuck pointing, awnings, canopy, signage, ancillary decorative lighting, surface parking lots that improve the property's curb appeal, screening of unsightly features, other permanent fixed above ground decorative. So it'd be a way for any business in the city of Casson to take advantage of that if they'd like to. There's an application process that'll be online on the website of the EDA, or here at City Hall, people can get an application. So we'll take a swing at that for 2019. Once the budget gets approved, we'll start marketing that to the business community and getting out, let people know it's available and see if they're interested. So, and then as if we go a year and it's not, we can always change the program and do something different and ask people what would help them. So it came with a recommendation from EDA to approve that. Any questions?
I just wanted to comment, I remember we talked on that a little bit before, and you said any storefront, but it's any commercial building
Any
in
building
town.
in city.
And it doesn't have to be any particular location.
Yep,
So I just
not
wanted
Main
to-
Street,
yeah.
not
Just city
retail.
limits, right.
Anywhere in the city limits of Casson, we cover for our tax base.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the program.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Coy. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Doug. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Number 2, the Tim Walz Initiative resolution, that is in the packet. If you look down under the resolutions in the packet, but if you look down under, we've got down an HR 6383 one-pager, small town initiative, that's the information we got from Congress, from the feds of this Small Town and Regional Vitality Investment Act of 2018. There's no cost to us to do it, it's just we're saying we support that if there are funds available, grants, those types of things, that we support that bill being out there and approved so that towns our size can apply for those types of things as appropriate. There's no cost to us doing it, we just need to pass a resolution that we support the legislation. So is there any questions on that resolution?
I think that was also a recommendation
From the EDA, yeah, recommend from EDA to approve that. So, any questions?
No.
Okay, entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Doug, do I have a second?
Second that.
Thanks, Dan, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously, Linda. Okay, number 3, resolution approving a conditional use permit for a planned unit development.
And the note on that would be that at the time we approved the rezone, we were looking for an easement for stormwater to cross the Shopko property. That's no longer an option. So that would be the note about changing, that would be the only condition different from the conditions on the rezone, is that now it's directing stormwater, working with MnDOT to redirect stormwater. So that's the only change in the project since the last time you reviewed it.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Doug, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Lonnie, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Resolution passes unanimously. Okay, no business. Mayor's report. Number 1, proclamation of Manufacturers Week. I think there's a copy of that.
Mhm.
Everybody's saying. Was it? Yeah, Manufacturing Week was last week, so we discussed it at EDA, and we just wanted to make that proclamation that we value manufacturing. We do have some small manufacturers in the city of Casson, and we value what they do for our community. One that comes to mind right across the street, the millwork. You know, they came to town, it's great, they got involved, built some stuff for the library, you know, as a vital part of the community. So we appreciate the manufacturing industry, we hope to attract more, and we just like to make this proclamation supporting the manufacturing industry in the state of Minnesota. So, be it proclaimed. 3 other things on the mayor's report. We did receive some information regarding some signage at the old historic water tower. That was forwarded to the water tower committee. We'll bring that back at the agenda, the next meeting agenda, for some discussion on that and possibly approving that sign and where it's gonna go and that type of thing. Number 3, Linda has been doing some work since we had to do our preliminary budget. One of the biggest issues we faced this year was the rising cost of health insurance, which I believe was a 29–30% increase over the previous year, 30%. So we had to set our preliminary budget based on those numbers, because that's what it was at the time. I just would like to thank Linda for keep looking for opportunities, and there's a possibility that there is a significant savings that can be achieved through one of the things that she found, the PEAP program, the Public Employees Insurance Program. We're meeting tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock with that agent, or 9 o'clock, I'm sorry, 9 o'clock. So there's a possibility that we could have some significant savings there, which then we would come back and discuss overall our budget and a change there. So that's a positive thing, hopefully, and I just would like to thank Linda for looking. Appreciate that.
Is this kind of a bigger group or something?
It's
Is that-
PEAP. You've heard of it, working for Rochester, Public Employees Insurance Program. It's through them that we can, there's a lot of trade-offs. It's a little more complicated program, but it's a higher deductible, but lower premiums, and The insurance agent is gonna come tomorrow and kind of explain the whole program because he was trying to do it over the phone to Teresa and I, and so he's coming down to do it in person and explain it to the mayor and Teresa and I tomorrow. And with the savings that we could have, depending on how we disperse it, I mean, minimal, the least amount you're gonna save is $80,000.
So it's a pretty significant.
It's a very
so it-
significant savings.
The number we're looking at is 2 something on it, wasn't it? Or I'm guessing what we'd seen.
Something.
What is the
total
insurance
cost
now?
of-
Oh, the total cost of insurance now? Oh, gosh, I don't have that number off the top of my head. I mean, this cuts a single premium from, it's going up to like $968 down to $511. And that would
I'm
be
just
the
looking at
premium.
80,000, that, 50%.
Well, that's where,
I thought it was around 200, I thought I'd read, I was guessing.
Two something, it's two
Yeah,
something.
I thought that was
Okay,
right,
yeah,
okay, like,
Yeah.
But
off the
it's a
top
pre-
of my head,
Pretty significant possibility that this might work out for us, which would work out for everybody, would work out for the employees, because they'd be paying less, would work out for our budget, so we'd have some other discussions to have about that if we can get that saved.
Perfect.
So, yeah, thanks Linda again for doing that. And then just a reminder, when we're done here, the fire department open house is tonight. Fire department and police department open house start at 6, so if you can get down there, that'd be great. Administrator's report.
All right, so first is a connection to the sewer for Manorville. So we settled up with them for the connections that they had at the time that we signed our agreement. And they are now looking at developing 12 residential lots. That would be 12 additional connections. The agreement that we have with them says that they will receive approval from the city for additional connections, but it's not clear where that approval comes from. You did set up a committee so that Charlie, Dave, and I would constitute pretty much the agreement, the committee that's called for in that agreement. So here I am saying, when Manorville proposes 12 more connections, would that be an approval from the committee, or will that be an approval from the council to add 12 connections? That is not clear in the agreement.
So just hearing that, well, I don't know why we wouldn't approve 12 more units being hooked up, because they're paying us by the percentage that they're pumping.
Exactly.
So, I think if the committee would come with the recommendation that, yep, approve it. but
Okay, so you'll
we have
wanna-
to- Maybe we'll have to rubber stamp it, but.
Okay,
I mean,
so
I
a
don't know why we'd say no.
recommendation.
No, but I think it should come across in front of us, so we make sure that
Okay.
engineers on board, that everybody knows about all of it.
So a recommendation from
Just
the
a
committee to the
recommendation,
council?
yeah.
Okay.
Think of,
Yeah,
big
it's good to
step.
have in place, just in those 200 lots, when
Right.
we were reaching peak, we'd sure like to
Right.
have a say in it.
Okay, so in that case, would you approve 12 additional connections? And that will turn this into a motion.
I'll make the motion that we accept.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the 12 additional hookups, so a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Coy. Who's first? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Mhm. Non-compliance letters. So last October, folks who were in the first phase of the project, where it was not possible either to make a determination that their stormwater or some water was going into the storm sewer or the sanitary sewer, or where we were able to determine it was going into the sanitary sewer instead of the stormwater system, received a letter. 11 of the 21 property owners who received those letters in November have still not done either of the things they needed. They haven't either obtained a determination or brought their sewer lateral into compliance. The letter did state that by November, they needed to do that by November 1st of this year to avoid the $100 per month surcharge on their sewer utility bill, which is in our ordinance. So we gave them from last October until this November. 10 of them have gotten the job done and 11 have not, but that leaves me then in the position of adding $100 per month surcharge to their sewer utility bill for not complying.
And that's by our ordinance.
That's by ordinance, yeah.
By chance, has there been a follow-up or reminder letter sent out to the 11 that haven't done it yet?
No,
we haven't said anything, no.
We did not send another letter, no. No, we sent them a letter last October.
What's this on March sixth?
March 6th was to the group this year, and that actually, we need to correct the date by which, so that was a March 6th letter.
Cause it says November on that one.
Yeah, I gotta look at that one, that was,
Okay.
that's for a reinspection property, so I think that might have been, if there was a follow-up for a project from last year, that was, I think, a reinspection, so that November 1st date was still holding, I believe.
On the March 6th
Yeah,
letter.
so the properties we're discussing currently are for projects that were done last year, so we gave them from last October, because we had done the work in front of the
Mhm.
residents, the 1 year basically plus to correct the deficiency. The ones that we're gonna do next year, we're gonna give them basically 1 year from this November till next November to ultimately make the correction.
Okay.
And some of those letters have gone out and some of them won't, but I think, again, the council direction at the time was to give them 1 year to get everything kind of fixed
Mhm.
up and in compliance.
I'd be for giving people, these 11 that haven't done it, or 10, whatever it is, a heads up, a second letter right now, give them to the end of November.
End of November?
Because,
Give
I
a
mean, they had a
30-day
year.
extension,
The
okay.
reason we did this project was to eliminate some of the stuff that's flowing in there.
Okay.
So let's just be good neighbors and send a reminder and give them to the end of
Okay.
November. That's my opinion.
Okay, so with the new, like, December 1st deadline or
Mhm.
something,
I don't know.
okay,
What's everybody think?
Yep, I
Yeah.
agree.
okay,
Good.
all right.
That's good.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
All right.
Doug, good?
Yeah, because they had the opportunity to put this in
For
with
a
the
year.
assessment, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just too bad that we couldn't have done it when everything was done and cleaned up and looked so nice what's done.
Yeah. So that's consensus, that's good.
Mhm.
Yep,
Teresa?
no problem, okay. Sidewalk voids, so we did have a resident who lives in the Bigelow Voight 6 subdivision, contact City Hall. There are 3 voids, in her subdivision where, someone has purchased 2 lots. They built a house on 1 lot and put in a sidewalk, and then they left a void on their 2nd lot. So this is a discussion about how long do we wait before we start connecting sidewalks?
So, I'm looking at the photo that's on here,
Mhm.
the one that's got the double lot. It looks like it's one parcel now. The parcel number's one
Right.
parcel, so they've
One of
actually.
them did combine their 2 parcels.
So then
Seems like that one for sure should have the
Right.
sidewalk connected when they combine parcels, because
Yeah.
you can't just.
Without, if you got 2 separate parcels, you still got a chance to build on it, you don't wanna put a sidewalk in
Right.
the buffer, but if it's one
But
parcel.
if they build when? So
Yeah.
are we waiting 20
True.
years, 25 years, 30 years for somebody to build, or,
Mhm.
you know?
Well, I think we have to go back and see, sidewalk, whose responsibility was that to put it in the first time?
The owner,
The owner?
the property owner.
And I've seen other lots in town where they own a house and a lot next to it, and they put the sidewalk in. Just 'cause it continues it for
Yeah.
them.
And
Yeah,
I
one in
was-
my neighborhood did it right away when he bought the lot.
Yeah.
He just planned to put it in, but he didn't plan on doing anything, they put a
Right,
basketball court and
right.
stuff on it.
Sean, by the tot lot, there's one in the corner there, it looks like too.
Right, and there's one in, Maston Creek Woodlands, I noticed yesterday, we took a tour, and the,
Small baseball.
yeah, the end of the cul-de-sac, there's a void in the sidewalk, so you can't even kinda just walk down around and come back up on the other side.
So Ninth and,
If you look at that map that you're looking at there, if you look to the right, that would be Wilker's property. So it's up there, 10th, you turn just before you get to where Wilker's property is,
Mhm.
so that's what you're looking at there.
Just south of Matt Bradford.
Just,
Right.
Or east of
east.
okay, then I believe on the other end of Ninth, there's that ADA ramp that you're putting in? one added in.
That was
It's all
eight.
located. Ninth? Yeah, ninth is on here.
That was 8, let me look real quick.
Ninth and 12th, I think it is.
Yeah.
It's
But,
12.
right, it's gonna, the whole thing's gonna turn into a larger discussion though, because these are just the 3 that I got the phone calls out. And, I believe there's one up in Casson Meadows where somebody has a greenhouse on the lot behind them. And they
That's
didn't.
what I was talking about,
Okay.
on the corner by Sean.
Yeah, didn't put in a
That'd be nice.
sidewalk. Then there's the
Yep.
lot in, Master Creek Woodland. So essentially, they're subdivisions that are finished with sidewalk voids.
The sidewalks go in when, I mean, if I go in and develop 5 acres and put in 20 lots,
Mhm.
I don't put the sidewalks in, but as I sell the properties to the ultimate owner.
And they build.
And they build, then they put it in. But I could go buy a lot
That's
and hold it for
essentially-
resale for someday in the future.
Well, so
I mean, just-
technically, yeah, technically, the way that the ordinance reads, the developer should be putting in sidewalks. But that doesn't make any sense really, because the developer would put in sidewalk and then,
Rip it
yeah,
up.
go ahead, Brandon.
Mayor, if I could, so our current development agreements, I'm not sure about these older development agreements. Current development agreement says developers shall make provisions to put in sidewalk, because our ordinance does say in these subdivisions we need sidewalk. So that's basically is the provision that developer only builds the ped ramps, the sidewalks for each individual house is built at the time, so that the developer is dictating that or letting the homeowner know that they're responsible to put the sidewalk in. So therefore, with that discussion, we, in theory, if we had a development agreement, in place here, could go after the developer and say, developer, where's your provision to make sure the sidewalk is built? Now is the time, maybe the question is, how do we trigger that? And then we could just say, homeowner, you knew you had to put it in, or that's been homeowner responsibility in the area, so put it in. Then that homeowner could approach the developer if there was some issue there, or if they had some concern about that.
So is there still a development agreement for this neighborhood? I mean, that'd be pretty old if there was.
Yeah, I don't know.
But the ordinance doesn't the ordinance make the developer responsible for the?
Yep, and then
Yeah.
how we do that is developer makes provisions, well,
Right.
provisions just for constructability, so when we build the house, we don't have a sidewalk that we're traveling over and
Right,
ruining.
right.
Homeowner puts it in after they're done constructing their home.
Right. And then the owner is essentially responsible for the cost of the sidewalk.
Yeah, I think where I am up there, I think the other provision was in there where the developer probably was responsible for it. There was a downturn in the economy when some of them lots were bought, so you bought it without concrete, was the word said right out to me, so I put my own in, I know the neighbor did, but I'm just wondering about, and I've asked you that question about that one, on 13th and 5th, 13th Avenue and 5th Street, Don Marty was up here.
Oh, we did the one
and
side,
he-
but not the other, yep.
Well, yeah, he put sidewalk all across the front of his property, and that lot wasn't in a subdivision that had sidewalk, but it came all the way down 13th Avenue. So in trade, he put the sidewalk all the way across the front of his property and traded that if the city would take care of the corner.
The ped ramp.
So we made that deal right here.
Mhm.
That was a good enough deal for it. The light pole had to be moved on the corner and stuff. I mean, it wasn't set up for sidewalk. The light pole was sitting right where that ADA corner had to be. So now, I'm just going back to this 9th and, where were we at, 12th and 9th.
Yep.
12th Avenue and 9th Street. And that one sits there, and it's an old one, an old corner. I mean, it's been there a long time. But it got thrown into the city sidewalk job. And I just questioned whether, if that was right, that that's coming out of that fund when, if it's supposed to be someone else's responsibility, then there it should be,
Yeah, and that's maybe a little bit different, 'cause that's a ped ramp, which is, that homeowner did put the actual sidewalk in. And now in today's construction, we'd be making the developer put those ped ramps in when they develop the street, so that we can check and make sure they're compliant for the ADA compliancy. So that way the homeowner only butts those ped ramps, because almost, I wouldn't really trust a homeowner to be able to build that ped ramp properly. So, we wouldn't necessarily have that condition in today's construction, if you will. So I think that really.
I guess I was just looking at how it was written when it was done, you know?
Yeah, no, it probably was that ped ramp may or may not have.
But it wouldn't be
put in, yeah.
compliant anyway, if it was there.
Correct, yep. So that's why I made the decision to put it,
99%
yeah,
sure of that,
exactly.
yeah.
So I think the discussion is, you know, you have a policing issue here of sidewalk should go in, right? I mean, that's been the direction for the subdivisions. When is the right time to really police that down and say, is it when adjacent property owner bought the lot to them and hasn't combined them? Because in theory, they could sell that lot and build it at a different time, so that could be an argument against having to be required to build the sidewalk. Or is there a sunset, or if they combine their adjacent lot into one tax parcel and they can't build a second structure, so then is that the time to require it, or just put a sunset and say it's been long enough, you own the adjacent lot, build it. I don't think the council would be out of line any direction they took. It just could be argued that, yeah, I own the adjacent lot, but I could sell it in the future and build a house on it, I don't want a sidewalk in there. But that could be the cost of kind of doing business of owning two lots also.
Have them cross where the service has gotta go, no? So how is that gonna work, though? You're sitting there with them lots without them, and you made the 5-foot rule, so they're gonna have 4 on each side there, and 5 in the middle again, too, or what?
Potentially.
Well, I think making it when they put two parcels together ain't gonna work, 'cause people are just gonna leave them two separate lots. If we're gonna do it, we just gotta pick a time, you know, is there so many, if all the lots are sold, is that the time we say that they have to put them in no matter what? I don't.
Kimberly, is it possible to just find out how many we have, the footage on it? I mean, I know it's, driving around or whatever to find them, but is there a possibility to find all the lots that we're talking about? I mean, we all kinda know a few here and there. Are there any more out there, so we get kind of an idea of length of sidewalk, put some prices on it, see what, I mean.
Yeah, it's pretty simple to do.
It would be interesting to get a map of the whole city to see what, before we would create some new ordinance or policy, or amend our ordinance.
Right.
Know what we're dealing with.
Well,
Right. Well,
I
it's
know
not
there
really
is, we're spending a lot of money on the corner of 13th and making that sidewalk up so we have a cross on County 34, Main Street, the end of Main Street there. Yeah, and there's the second lot on that one has never had a sidewalk, so here we're spending that to have that crossing down there, and there's actually a lot without sidewalk there, you know, so.
So we're not amending, it would be enforcing
Right,
it.
right.
Or how we interpret it.
Right,
Because right now it's kind of ambiguous as far as
right.
when is the trigger to say,
Mhm.
you know, is it, if our development agreement says the developer has to make provisions for it, and when the original developer sells the lot to somebody, whether they build on it or not, if they build on it, it's simple, the sidewalk goes in right away. But if they sit on it after so many months or years, you have to put the sidewalk in whether you build a house or not, once it's removed from the original developer. So, you know, because I could go out and buy a lot and just sit on it for 20 years and not
Exactly,
build on it.
right.
And be able to block the sidewalk.
And then in another way, we're stepping on someone's toes here, because one guy bought a lot on each side of the road there. He just bought them in the last year, and both of them are leading to that crosswalk. They're on, one on each side of 13th. He's got for sale signs on them now, they sat with nothing for a long time.
So let's see how many we're dealing with,
Okay,
and then
okay.
maybe everybody just kind of think about that, about what will be the trigger. And if, Brandon, do you have any familiarity with surrounding communities that you've worked with as far as how other folks have dealt with it?
To look into that a little more.
Just to
Yeah, I can look into that.
kick the tires or ask at one of your staff meetings if
Yeah,
anybody's running
I can
into
do
that,
that.
what people do.
I think we're definitely on the right page when they join the lots together as an automatic, you know,
It has to happen.
that's common sense.
But then, what do we do for the ones that have done it before we come up with this? 'Cause the one's already done. I mean, you can't ask, Melanie, is there anything to go backwards with it?
Send them a
Charlie
notice?
figures?
send them a notice and tell them that they've got however long to put it in, and if they don't,
Somebody will,
do
and
it.
somebody
Right.
will.
So,
assess it to the
yeah,
property.
interestingly, what we're learning about parcels, so essentially they had two parcels, two lots, and they went to the county and created one taxable parcel. The lot, the legal description still exists. So they could go back to the county and say, oh, I want my two lots to be two separate parcels again. So,
Yes, if they would have built something that.
no, they don't have to,
Really?
because
Back
it's
being a-
still two platted lots.
With
There's-
one tax ID number.
Right, with one tax ID number, they could ask for a tax ID number for each of the platted lots. They're not changing the platted lot, they're just changing the way that the county is taxing it, right?
So if we're think about it, and if you can get us an inventory of what
Mhm.
exactly we're dealing with, or pretty close
Okay.
to that, that'd be good
Okay.
information to have. Thank you.
Mhm.
Number 4.
Yes, so we, got an inventory over to Enterprise. They wanted to make sure we had at least 20 qualifying vehicles in our fleet. And so we provided probably more vehicles than they were looking for, but I said, we'll let them disqualify them, not us. But it really looks like we have at least 20 vehicles that would count as our fleet to be able to participate in Enterprise's leasing program. Unfortunately, he has already had to reschedule with me, so we will not be meeting with him at our department head meeting, but we will be setting up something hopefully shortly thereafter, so
Thank you.
we're moving forward with that. And then, I did include the accounting for planning and zoning in your packet.
And I requested that after
Yeah.
the last meeting, because you had mentioned about paying for the
Yeah.
study for the
Mhm.
16th and Maple Avenue and possibly using those funds. So I
Right.
just wanted to see what we had used year to date and that type of thing for that specific line
Right.
item. So, that's why that's in there, if anybody had any questions on that. Any questions on that, or we can move on to? Good. Okay. Engineers report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. One item tonight, and there's a couple underneath J1 there, but the final one we'll be considering tonight is J1 revised. So that's the document within Dropbox that is kind of the correct final document. The other documents were related to this, but this is the final revised resolution for your consideration tonight. So this is a resolution adopting assessments for the South Manorville Avenue project. We ultimately have petition waiver agreements for those properties. All of the total final dollar amounts are below kind of the max set in those petition waiver agreements. The petition waiver agreement said, well, we're looking at a project, preliminary cost are X amount, here's what we're proposing for your property. So they're all below that. Specifically, the project on the west side there, the Carter Blaine property, which is Goodrich Fellows Partnership, that's a deferred assessment that was in a previous agreement the city council passed. So you guys have passed and approved all these petition waiver agreements. This is just now ultimately finalizing the costs associated with the project, now that we've wrapped up the project and know what our true costs were. So that's what we're looking at tonight. The interest rate has been set in there based on, again, what those agreements stated, based on the Fed prime rate, and then the dates are all shown for the assessment. So with that, I'll happily answer any questions you may have. I think Melanie would like to add one item to the resolution.
I would either add some language to the resolution or change up the language a little bit in paragraph 2, just to refer to that deferred assessment, because it is payable on different terms than the remaining assessments. The language that I would suggest adding would be the deferred assessment shall be payable in accordance with the petition and waiver agreement relative thereto. Interest accumulated on the deferred assessment from the date of this resolution shall be added to the principal. So pursuant to the statute 429.061, this, because we're deferring payment on the assessment, the city can either defer the interest, they can defer it and add it to the principal essentially, so it wouldn't be paid until they start paying on the principle of the assessment. And that was if it's annexed into the city, if it's developed, those were the other triggers in that development agreement with Goodrich Fellows. The council could choose to have them pay the interest yearly, defer the principal, but have the interest paid yearly. We didn't specifically talk about that and negotiate that in the petition and waiver agreement, so I'm a little reluctant to say to them, well, you still gotta pay us every year for the interest, when we can defer it. Otherwise, the council could waive it completely, but I wouldn't recommend that either. The longer that we wait for payment on that, the more cost we're carrying. So I would just recommend that it's rolled into the principal.
So, is this a resolution that has to be done tonight, or can it wait till the next meeting?
We can bring it back to them.
I was saying, if you wanna, does that sound good, everybody, that we should reference that separate, since not, we have one petition waiver.
Well, yeah, okay, so the only thing is that the interest rate is from the date of adoption of this assessment
So,
resolution.
and then they set it as of today is
Yes.
what was that.
So it could change.
We just, yeah, we revised the, resolution, revised assessment amount.
I have the language that I would suggest adding written out, Chris, if you want to
Okay.
refer to it.
The Federal Reserve doesn't meet till December, so they're not gonna raise the rate till December, but, so I'm not worried about the rate changing.
Okay, okay.
Do you have any other concerns about it?
Any concerns about the language, if we read that?
No.
I mean, if Melanie just reads that again, so we make that part of resolution, everybody's okay with that?
Mhm.
Basically, because we have kind of two separate deals within the same resolution, but just to specifically do that. And then as far as deferring the interest until the principal's due, I believe that's kind of good faith what we negotiated when we had our deal. I don't think we mentioned anything about paying the interest as you go.
No.
We had added to the principal at the end, and they start paying.
Yeah.
I believe that that's what was contemplated by the parties.
Okay, so everybody's good with that?
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions or any other comments, Brandon, Melanie?
That was it.
Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution as amended.
I'll make that motion.
Stan, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Lonnie. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Resolution passes unanimously. Linda? On to L, attorney's report. We are gonna go into closed session for a short period of time. So that means we have to clear the room, and we will reopen the meeting as soon as the closed session is over. We'll come get you.
On or off, Melanie?
Doug, it's 1.5 times the tree, 1.5 times more water than we pump in the lab. I don't know if it's trending up or down.
No.
Okay, I didn't go to the.
Yeah.
I think it was
Yeah.
August